Welcome to On the Point Podcast, a podcast for all things Overwatch with a heavy focus on League, discussing roster moves, weekly matchups, and the June Joust, or
Yeah.
June Journament, as I keep seeing, and that's my favorite, honestly.
Honestly, yeah, like the thing is if the sort of shitposty sense of humor that is in Overwatch League this season was present last season, this tournament would be called the June Tournament. Like, let's be real.
Because it's so hard to figure out, like, okay, we've got the May Melee, that's good. We've got the Summer Showdown, that's good. The fuck else do we have?
Yeah,
And you
like
have to have something that goes with June.
yeah, exactly. And June Joust is pretty good. I'll give him that. It's solid. But
Yeah,
June Tournament is just the sort of shitpostiness that I appreciate.
June Journament is the sort of thing we come back for.
Yes.
Anyway, I'm Katie. I'm the support main.
I'm CJ. I'm the tank main.
And we have taken a week to kind of let these games marinate. And also all of us sweltering in the 100-degree heat out here. So, good times, great oldies.
Yeah, and also starting a new job on my end kind of
Which
left
is
my
still
energy in
awesome.
other. Oh no, it is, but it absolutely kind of channeled my energy in other directions this past week.
Yeah, so for those who have been like, what happened? Where are they? We're here. We're just a little late. That's all. It's fine.
You should be
But
used
yeah.
to this by now.
Yeah. People who follow my YouTube channel for other reasons also know that my release schedule is basically a giant question mark. It'll happen when it happens. They
Yeah,
all understand that.
to anyone who's surprised by it, I just referred to that one little bit from Age of Ultron. Just the what, you didn't see that coming?
Yeah,
Because that it's on brand. It's on brand.
it is. It is. All right. Things that I was not expecting. The sheer amount of 3 Overwatch that happened in this tournament.
Yeah, like there was obviously there were a couple like decisive matches in the May Melee, but there were definitely more just straight up blowouts in the June Joust. And it started off day one with two of them. The NYXL got stomped by the Atlanta Reign, and then Dallas Fuel had a decisive victory over the Shanghai Dragons, both 3-0.
I think that I honestly don't remember if I predicted a single 3-0 for that. I might have predicted the 3-0 for Atlanta over New York. Like, New York getting kicked in
Mhm.
the face was not really a surprise.
Oh yeah, no,
Uh,
like I think we both expected this to like with again, as a New Yorker, I don't like to shit on New York despite how much I've been doing it lately. But I don't think any of us really had particularly high hopes coming into this. And I feel like outside of the Shanghai Dragons dropping to the Fuel 3-0 in this first round, pretty much everything kind of went as expected. I think we expected Atlanta to take the win, we expected Dallas to take the win, and we expected the next set of matchups to well. I made my bold prediction as to how it would go, but like I don't think we were surprised to see the tournament follow the general shape in terms of like who progressed and who didn't.
yeah, it was just a matter of the relatively extreme measures in each. Like, the the closest ones we had were the finals, which I was not expecting to be close, and the Dallas Atlanta match. Everything else was a 3-0. I don't even think
Yeah,
we tied on Volskaya on these. I don't remember. We might have had a tie somewhere in there, but I don't think we tied on Volskaya in any
no,
of these 3
I don't
0.
think so either. But um,
Man.
yeah, and sort of carrying into just that second round match that you alluded to. Our next two matches were the Dallas Fuel versus the Atlanta Reign and the NYXL versus the Shanghai Dragons down in the lower bracket. Now, I feel like we all kind of expected um, I feel like we all expected Atlanta to sort of perform a little better than they ended up doing, but it seems like they got into the tournament and then whatever was just whatever momentum they had just petered out immediately because they have one relatively competitive the first two maps with the Fuel are relatively close, and then after that just Dallas has completely steamrolled them.
Well, and also, and there was some conversation about this from the casters, and I agree, it was a three-match night. It was Dallas and Atlanta, and then it was New York and Shanghai, and then it was Shanghai and Atlanta. And having done the thing where it's like, let's travel some time zones, let's figure it out. By the time that match ended, Shanghai versus Atlanta, it was like 1 a.m. Atlanta time for one. I don't
Yeah,
think they were in Hawaii long enough to really adjust to that. And that's not what the casters brought up. That's just me going, I'm feeling it, and I'm in the Pacific time zone. They're on Eastern. They have to be
yeah,
dying.
yeah,
And
and
also, they
oh,
came off of a loss
mhm.
and then went in against a team that was already strong and came off of a win. I wasn't expecting them to be curb stomped to this degree, but
No,
like
definitely
this was
not.
just really bad. They rolled over. It was
Yeah,
not a good look.
and I remember, like, we were talking, we were, like, messaging each other, like, as the Shanghai versus Atlanta game, coming up was happening, and, like, a map in, I just remember messaging you, just look at Gator's face, because
Yeah.
like, he, outside of the moments where he's kind of got that satisfied smile, has a pretty neutral expression. He looked dead in his chair. Like, he looked either boomed, exhausted, or both. Like,
I
I
mean,
and
probably both.
yeah, and obviously I don't know sort of like how much time they had to acclimate or what state they were in physically, but like I wouldn't be surprised to hear that they, had kind of struggled to adjust to the jet lag and get enough practice in and all that. Because this, unless they just crumbled under the pressure, or like they just really didn't look like the same team. Even against Dallas, like they only tried to use the Arisa comp that seemed like it was going to be kind of the bread and butter for that matchup going into it. They only really used it on that first map.
Yeah, it never came back up again. It just they didn't play, with the exception of the game against New York. And again, we had three really good teams and we had a team that's been middling in
Yeah.
this tournament. So again, none of us are really surprised that New York got 3-0'd both times around. They were just not at the caliber that everyone else in this tournament was. But seeing Atlanta roll over like that, like that's not even fun to watch. I feel like even if you are a Shanghai fan, this isn't a fun match to watch. This is
Yeah.
just like, oh my god, no, stop, stop. He's already dead.
Yeah, it's
that's
it's
that's where we are.
yeah, it's one of those things that it's one of those things that like when you see it take place, like even if a fight is decisive in one direction, like from the outset, you never want to see a situation where one person just looks completely lost from the word go. And I'm not saying Atlanta looked hopeless, but like by the time, but in some of these matches, they just looked like they didn't belong in there in the shape that they were in. And that's just oof.
At that point, you're just looking at it going, I just want it to end. Like we know it's one of those where it's probably going to be a 3-0, but it feels like the longest 3-0 on the face of the fucking planet.
Yeah, even though it's relatively short.
Yeah, but just the players are exhausted, the audience is exhausted. Like the only people who are happy are Shanghai, and they should be, but it's still just like, oh man, no, I was expecting the only not red versus blue match in the tournament to be a little more competitive.
Yeah,
And Atlanta just, they weren't there. I really hope that they were able to enjoy their however many more days they had in Hawaii. I hope they were able to relax. I hope they were able to enjoy the beaches and the tourism, and I don't know what island they're on, but if they're, go up to Waikiki, go to the Aloha Market,
I'm gonna look that up
like,
right now, like which island the University of Hawaii campus is on, because
yeah.
I think like I know there's one in Honolulu and I know there's one in Hilo, but like like I know they've got a couple different campuses, and now I'm just wondering. Yeah, I'm gonna look it up, but
Yeah,
hopefully they got to
regardless.
enjoy that.
Yeah, regardless, I hope that they were able to just I'm sure they actually watched the match that last day too, but I
Mhm.
hope that they were able to take the time and relax and just be able to take advantage of a day or two at the beach decompressing, cuz
Yeah,
this is just it's rough. It's the whole pandemic continues to be difficult regardless. And then again, time zones and not playing well in this match just like it's difficult and and I'm not an Atlanta fan. I've never been an Atlanta fan. I don't know if I'm ever going to be an Atlanta fan. They're just one of those teams where I'm like, "Eh, I felt for them.
yeah, it's like
I felt for them."
yeah,
Oh
even
man.
yeah, the thing is they came in strong. It felt like it was kind of a breakout moment for them, and to see them kind of like fall to steal like a Gavin Free thing from a Let's Play a million years ago that's just lodged in my brain. To see him just go flaccid at 99%, like it's sucks. There's no other way to put it. Like just because you feel like you could tell that how amped they were to make this happen going into it, just watching the games like prior to the tournament.
Yeah. So this just yeah, I think we're probably going to wind up spending more time talking about this than the actual finale, but
Well,
yeah, we
yeah,
feel for you, Atlanta. We
yeah.
do.
Just because I feel like obviously the finale to the tournament was a big was kind of a surprise, but I feel like so obviously just going into this, I think Dallas were considered the favorites.
Yeah.
And in the finals of the tournament, we see the we see at the end of this Shanghai Dragons 4-3 against the Dallas Fuel. And it was an insane match to watch, much in the way that like the previous tournament finale was, where both teams really found the new gear. And I have to give it to Shanghai. After the first four maps, I genuinely thought that they were just done. And like not even that they couldn't come back, like they weren't playing badly, but like they weren't bringing anything really new to the table. Their strategy wasn't, suddenly more effective than it had been. But map 5 on, they really just found another gear to kick into, and Fate especially was not accomplishing much in the first half of the match. Like he went from feeding ball to wrecking ball in
Yeah.
in like the space of a map, and I was just like, what the fuck? Where did this come from? Like I knew obviously he's good. Like we know he's good. He's been one of the better main tanks in the Overwatch League from day one. But this was an amazing performance out of him.
I think that when Shanghai was up against Atlanta, they pulled like an OG Sailor Moon villain move and just sapped all their energy. And then this is where they used it.
Yeah, like it has to be like this was like again we've been calling the Dallas Fuel like the Shonen Pro tags of the Overwatch League, but this was Shanghai like absolutely just like going through it on guts and just guts and will. Like they found a level that I just genuinely didn't think they had right now.
It was just basically all screaming. It was just all screaming. And this I want to say this is on par with their I think it was against Seoul in last year's was it Summer Showdown? I think it was Summer Showdown. I don't think it was Melee where they just fucking reverse swept them. The
Well,
headshot
mhm.
after headshot after headshot clip. I would say that this is on par for that because it wasn't quite the same as a straight up reverse sweep, but 8 maps.
Yeah, no, it definitely had that same energy to it because by when that scoreline was 3-1, Shanghai did not look like they had many signs of, like, obviously they had signs of life, but it looked like that last map was kind of a foregone conclusion. Maybe they could claw one more out, but then they got that next one, and then that next one. And at that point, I remember watching and just being like, oh my fucking God, are they going to do it? And like, even as a Dallas fan and who was like heartbroken and frustrated watching things just come apart like at the finish line, this was still an insane final that that adds itself to that list of like, it seems like every, tournament cycle we have one or two matches that kind of makes a claim to being like, oh, the best Overwatch we've seen this season. This was another one. This was just fucking phenomenal, like bell to bell. Check this shit out if you haven't.
Yeah, it's absolutely worth a watch. I was actually doing a movie night with my roommate and her brothers over, we use Netflix Party and all that fun shit. So we're watching Demon Slayer. And so in between episodes, I would just kind of turn around and look at the iPad because I had it on because I was, watching it on mute for points and going, yeah, Dallas is going to win. Another episode later, yeah, Dallas is going to win. Oh, hey, Shanghai put one on the board. Wait, what's happening? Wait, Shanghai? What the fuck did I miss?
Yeah,
Demon Slayer is amazing, by the way, but also, holy shit, going back and watching the VOD the next day was just like, what?
also, this just sets up like potentially the big storyline for the rest of the year, which is we have the two teams, I think, right now that you can't make a strong argument against them being the two best teams in Overwatch. Like, we have our juggernauts in the way that we had San Francisco and Vancouver in the 2018 season.
Yeah, I've as a perennial red versus blue fan, I appreciate that I can sit down and make almost any red versus blue reference I want, and it works because it's red versus blue.
Oh yeah, no, it like Red versus Blue is quotable in the same way that The Simpsons is quotable. I'm not saying like to the same extent. They haven't covered as many bases like for as long, but at the same time, it's one of those things. Wait, no, not 2018 season,
Season 2,
29.
I just
Yeah,
tend to go by
season.
numbers.
Yeah, no, it's 2019 because 2020 is when they made
When the
me.
world stopped.
Yeah.
2020 was season 3. Yeah, I keep having moments of, oh yeah, last year wait, no, last year was the pandemic and it didn't exist. 2 years ago, I just
Yeah,
time is a flat circle, and that is why clocks are round. Red versus blue quote. Anyway,
but yeah, no, we have our two like juggernauts established. Like right now, we have the two favorites, and anytime a team competes against them, we have that storyline set. Like the the dominant forces are here, and now it's a matter of can anyone challenge them besides each other.
and that's wild because the each other only happens in tournament settings.
Yeah, it gives these tournaments an extra level of drama just because you have all this time for them to grow and build and test new things and then just empty the arsenal against each other the way that we saw in the finals of the June Joust. And in the like, it's a question of like, in the coming weeks, are we going to get to see Pine play for Dallas, and what does that add in, the round 3 that can happen? Will we get a round 3 in this next tournament cycle, or will there be an upset on one side or the other? Like, this is a fucking fascinating storyline to watch, and it's one of those things that I think Overwatch League was completely lacking in 2020. Just
Well,
having
yeah, League didn't really have anyone who could go toe to toe with San Francisco.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, so we had in the inaugural season, there were so many teams figuring each other out and storylines established as certain teams defied expectations, well or poorly. Rivalries got formed. 2019, we had the dominant sort of through line of Vancouver versus Shock, and then Shanghai kind of inserts themselves into the mix as the season goes on. And then in 2020, a lot of it fell apart. We lost the Vancouver Titans like super dominant runaway roster, which we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But and the Shanghai Dragons were obviously very very strong, but the Shock were just they were the gimme in any match they were in, and now that we have this sort of like genuine intrigue about who the best in the world is, and if they can stay on there because we have multiple teams fucking gunning for that, this is interesting.
Yeah, and being able to do the final rounds of these tournaments where you actually do have the best of NA and EU and the best of APAC facing off against each other. Like, I know there's no way we would have been able to do it without crazy time zone and lag issues in 2020 because there was no traveling to Hawaii. There was no traveling.
Yeah.
So, well, or very little traveling, and it was not necessarily safe. Um, but yeah, so the fact that we're able to do this and that they've been able to cut this deal with University of Hawaii so they can make it doable and not have to worry about time zones, ping, etc. Well, not have to worry about time zones as much. Poor
Yeah.
Atlanta.
And again,
It's
speculation, but seems fucking likely.
oh, as someone who has done the thing more than once, yeah,
Oh,
we've
oh
we've
no,
all
I've
felt that bone deep
yeah,
exhaustion.
I've done it too.
Yep. So yeah, it's great that they're able to do this with University of Hawaii. I'll be interested to see what happens presumably next season. I don't think we're getting there this season because COVID is kind of getting into do you want variants because that's how you get variants territory and yeah, still would not recommend widespread travel, just saying. Uh but I look forward to seeing what happens when they go back to the everyone faces everyone traveling all over the place format that was initially proposed if they do that.
Yeah, and that was something that we talked about, back when before the pandemic, when the league was planning on sort of transitioning to that model. It's hard on coaches and players and all of that. Like the logistics are hard, and then you have you know, all of the moving pieces in terms of making sure everyone gets enough rest, gets enough practice.
Yeah, traveling is difficult, and then traveling halfway across the world for a weekend and then to another place. It's if you're never at home, if you never have time to kind of stop and rest, like how do you bond? How do you get better? How do you deal
Mhm.
with exhaustion? Because traveling is exhausting.
And the other thing to sort of keep in mind as well is like you can say, oh, professional sports teams do it all the time, but one, they don't necessarily travel as many time zones as say New York going to Hangzhou, China would. Um, if hypothetically we have everyone sort of playing out of their home cities. And then on top of that, professional sports in like the traditional sense don't have a shifting metagame in the way that esports does, nor does map preparation really play as big a difference because like you know if you have a baseball team playing another baseball team, the field is more or less the same. Like, yeah, some are more hitters' ballparks, some are more pitchers' ballparks, but it's not going to fundamentally change. You don't need to like have three pitchers like on the field if you're playing um, in a specific ballpark, and like the rules of baseball don't change periodically.
Yeah, that'd be bug nuts. Nobody is allowed to bunt this game.
Yeah.
No bunting.
Yeah.
Only for this game. Put your strategies around that. I say that as someone who actually really does like the shakeups that hero pools provide. And I can say that as someone who does not have to play in the league or coach. I am allowed that opinion because it does not affect me.
Yeah, as
Uh
someone who has
yeah.
played, who has played in, organized competition and who has coached in organized competition, I don't fucking like it.
I
Like,
know y'all suffer for my entertainment, but I also know that League wants to avoid the mass of complaining and people tuning out that happened in season 2 when it was all goats day in and day out. And I know you love goats for the precision chess game that it is, but not all of us like chess in our Overwatch.
no, I understand, and I think people need to quit fucking bitching about it. It's been like 2 years at this point, but at the same time, I get it. But the meta was still has still been pretty fucking diverse
Oh yeah.
since that's ended. I don't see that being as concrete an issue, especially because even with hero pools where we had this dominant sort of, quote unquote neo goats plague comp, whatever the fuck you want to call it, be
I
very
still love
dominant.
playing
Yeah.
comp or zombie comp.
Yeah.
It's a good time.
Yeah. But even with that being very dominant, we saw Shanghai's variant with Wrecking Ball sort of showing up a lot in the East. Um, we saw a lot of the Orisa gameplay style. Um,
We still
there
had
was,
moments of
yeah,
Doomfist players clutching it up, so
yeah,
yeah.
there was still flexibility. So I think it's kind of an invalid concern at this point, but we'll see if I get proven wrong, basically.
Yeah, and I'll be interested to see what happens because we're going back into this is Summer Showdown now because Countdown Cup is after that. Yeah, we're going into Summer
Free reign,
Showdown and huh?
free reign in terms of heroes.
Yeah, no hero pool. So I'll be interested to see what happens when we have Reinhardt, Tracer, Sombra, Zen back in the meta. If we're going to go back to what it looked like in May Melee, or if the comps that we saw in June Joust will continue to be played, or if we'll have yet another mutation.
Oh no, I think we're
Like,
going to see some changes because the Summer Showdown is going to be running on a new patch with new balance changes.
oh, that's
Um,
true.
yeah, I forget exactly which patch and what balance changes, and I'm going to very quickly double check that just so
I
I
mean,
can.
we've basically gone into news anyway, so
Yeah, so I was going to ask like if we're ready to make that transition right now. So I guess
we're already there talking about the hero pools and Summer Showdown. But
yeah,
while you're looking that up, in the meantime, I do want to talk about the Widowmaker 1v1.
yes, do it, do it, do it.
These, I feel like the very first one we had, I was bored off my ass. And then the second one we had, just in terms of not like first rounds, but the 2018 one, I was bored. It was a great skill match, but I was bored. The 2019 one, half the fun of it was all of the other All Stars players hanging out behind people's desks and pointing and cheering when they won. It just, the peanut gallery was what made it worth it.
Mhm.
Last year's and this year's have just been they haven't had the peanut gallery element that made me start liking it, but they've still been a blast. And I think part of it is we haven't had quite as many competitors. You weren't watching Widowmaker 1v1 for 90 minutes,
Mhm.
but also just having the face cams, having the interviews, having the match chat. I really hope when we go back to in person, we still get to see match chat because, oh my God, it's been incredible. And I don't think anyone called this that our winner of our Widowmaker 1v1 was New York Excelsior rookie Guangzhou.
Yeah, I
Like,
was surprised.
what?
Like, fucking good for him. And that's one of those things that, like, anyone who's like talking about like Overwatch League players being bad, and like, obviously, I've had strong opinions on like who on players before and all that. Like, anyone who makes it this far is mechanically really fucking good.
Yeah.
Like that's just the bar to clear for fucking the possibility of entry. That's what gets you on like the short list to actually get on the list.
It's that joke about what do you call a guy who graduates last in his class from medical school? Doctor.
Yeah.
So you oh no, they're 499 out of the top 500. Yet they're still in the top 500, motherfucker. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's I was not expecting this. I think my prediction was Kai, and when he got knocked out, I was like, all right, it's gonna be Pine then. And to just going all the way to the end, I think it was the final round. God, this kid's going places.
Yeah, no, like I have said a bunch of times here that I think New York is a team that is very well scouted. Like the players they found in terms of finding guys with a big upside was, they did a great job with that. It's just a matter of giving them the coaching to develop their synergy and individual talent in the team play environment. That's the kicker.
Yep. So yeah, good for Guangzhou. Holy shit. I think we're all going to be paying a little more attention to him now.
Yeah.
And yeah, do you have the info on the patch for Summer Showdown?
Yes, we have a few changes with some. So it's going to be on patch 1.60.1, with the biggest changes affecting Batiste, Echo, McCree, Moira, Reaper, and Zarya. And those changes are Zarya's particle cannon suffered a slight nerf, but it's not a dramatic one. Basically, the base damage got lowered, meaning she's less powerful coming out of spawn, but at full charge, she is just as scary. Uh,
Fair.
Base damage is now 75 DPS instead of 95 DPS, with the max still being 170.
Fair.
Next, McCree. So the latest here, like his health got increased last year, which kind of brought him more like sort of back in the spotlight after being out of it for a while. But the latest patch, he got nerfed a little bit. The reload time for the Peacekeeper got increased by zero point 0.3 seconds, so 1.2 to 1.5 seconds, and the distance of the combat roll was reduced by 20%. However, still fairly powerful, and I think he's going to have his place.
He's
Reaper,
still real tanky for a DPS.
yeah, but I think part of that is to compensate for the fact that his damage drop off is pretty sharp in some places.
Fair.
Um, Next, Reaper. Reaper's self healing was nerfed in the last patch. Now it has been reverted, so he can recover 35% of his health hitting enemies instead of just 30.
All right.
Next up, Echo. So she had a ridiculous amount, like her ult was very oppressive over the course of like the past two tournament cycles.
Yeah. She's a terror child.
Yeah, her ult now takes 15%. Her ult charge rate is now 15% longer.
Yeah, it feels like you could for some of these June Joust matches, it felt like you could have a battle where one single Echo got two ults, and those are game changers.
Mm-hmm.
So makes sense.
Yeah, so that's a step in the right direction. Batiste got a slight nerf. His the charge time of his like full exo boost, like the jump, goes from 0.7 seconds to full height to 1 second to full height. Still has a high healing capacity, still does a fair bit of damage, um, and still has the immortality field, which is probably like one of the biggest utility pieces in his kit. Um, Next, Moira. Her ult cost is increased by 17% after how fucking ridiculously quickly people were able to charge it previously. However, her resources also regenerate faster while channeling coalescence.
All
So
right.
longer time to build the ult, but slightly better using it. Um,
Takes an extra episode of DBZ to get there, but it's a better beam battle.
yeah, basically. And I think those are the big changes for this one.
So they basically watched the June Joust and went, okay, who is completely nuts in this?
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. Which I think it's a good response, just because I know some people were like, "These fights are just a fucking mess. It's hard to follow." So I think a little bit of a change is going to be a positive here.
I mean, I don't mind a messy fight. I kind of love it when it goes completely insane.
Oh
But
yeah,
the
no,
ones
neither
that
do
are
I.
like, everyone has a ridiculous amount of sustain, nobody is dying, and this fight has actually hit a solid 95 seconds. What the fuck is happening?
Also,
Those are much.
the fact that you could have an Echo ult, build two Diva bombs, and like let them off of the chain. No, that's a bit much.
Yeah. I
Um,
will say, I heard, I don't remember if it was in League or if it was in Contenders, one of the casters talking about how they were getting tired of Diva remake kills.
mhm.
I don't think I'll ever be tired of remake kills. It's
Yeah,
like getting hit by a car.
yeah. I think
It just, see, it's terrible when it happens to you or someone you care about, but it's really fucking funny when it's cartoony.
this just in. Katie thinks it's funny to see people get hit by cars as long as she doesn't know them.
No, that's why I said when it's
Yeah, no, I
cartoony.
know, I know, I know. Uh, and
Excuse you.
and and I also like, from a balance perspective, it definitely shouldn't do as much damage as it does, but at the same time, it's still funny to see it. I,
It's just and I
yeah.
mean, I love the logic is like she's calling a fucking mech from the sky. Yeah, it's gonna do some damage when it hits,
Oh,
but doing
absolutely.
enough damage maybe they need to make the radius a little smaller because it's definitely hitting people where it shouldn't be.
Yeah,
But I, I love it though, and I love that it has definitely caused some divas to flirt with danger more than they should and get
especially if
wrecked
it's the
for their
Echoes.
hubris. Hmm?
Especially if it's the Echoes who are just like, well, I've got to get out of jail free card, Leroy, into the nearest enemy as they're trying to get their mech back.
I mean, I don't mind the Echoes doing it, but it's the divas doing it,
Oh yeah,
and
no,
I
no.
believe Choi at one point
Oh yeah.
2 weeks ago did it, and it was just like, oh buddy, nah man,
Oh
you
yeah,
gotta
no.
remember you still only got 150 hit points yourself.
Oh yeah, no. I'm just saying with the Echoes, it's funny to me because they just immediately beeline towards the nearest enemy, like no fucks given.
Can I take out the support line and get my mech back at the same time? Let's find out. Like, I love it.
I smell opportunity.
It's very, very stupid,
Hmm.
opportunistic comedy, and I am here for it.
And
It's so dumb.
And speaking of opportunity, the season trade deadlines for 2021 is fast approaching. So, July 29th at 6 p.m. Pacific time is the trade deadline. This affects player trades, but not the signing of free agents. So, any teams that are going to be trying to acquire players from other rosters, they've got to start really giving thought to to who they want to acquire and for what.
As of the time of this recording, they've got a little more than a month because we're
Mm-hmm.
recording this on June 23rd. So yeah, that's coming up fast and I'll be interested to see if it, like, I feel like that's not going to make them light a fire under their asses if they weren't already looking. I'll
Yeah,
be interested to see if there's something already in motion that we see finalized at some point.
yeah, and that's kind of what I expect to see if we see anything happen as well. But I'm curious, especially considering, well, we will have a couple different things to talk about on this score going forward.
Honestly, I'm just looking at Paris and going, hey, hey, soon as a free agent, pick him back up, you jerks.
Yeah, and I think I don't think it'd hurt him. I don't think it'd hurt him. If they got the
Yeah,
money for it,
I mean, they
it'd give
did
them.
let him go,
Yeah,
so they let him go in the first place, and he was gonna be on Boston, so
yeah,
but on the other hand, it's soon.
yeah. It would definitely be a popularity boost, and it would be a cool storyline to have another veteran returning.
Yeah, and I mean, it's let's be real, it's never too late for soon.
No, not at all. But
There's your title.
yeah, but it is too late for something, and this is kind of where I become depressed for a little bit talking about this because Korean contenders team Runaway, perennial underdogs and fan favorites since the pre Overwatch League days of the professional scene, have officially disbanded. And I know a lot of people who like kind of got into Overwatch with the Overwatch League don't really know who they are, but it is some of the most magical fucking moments in the history of competitive Overwatch came from them. Some of the most like epic comebacks, crushing defeats, moments of just hilarious dorkiness, and also well, the uh, so much talent that you've seen in the league has come through Runaway. Kaiser, who you haven't seen in the Overwatch League, but you've seen clips of his Reinhardt being ridiculous. Kalios from Season 1 Boston Uprising and a whole lot of work down in contenders. Koma, Haksal, Bumper, Tizzy, Hureg, Stitch, Janu, Twilight, Slime, Sominsu, Lee Jae Gon, Hisu, QOQ, Gangnam Jin, Yaki, Shui, Mag, Assassin, Coach Yang won first Vancouver, then Toronto. No Are You, Genji, and then later Hangzhou. Kuki got his first coaching job there before he got hired for Florida, sort of after he retired as a player. All of them came into the Overwatch League after runaway stints in some capacity or another.
They'll
Like,
be missed.
they really will be. And for those of you who don't kind of know the story, Overwatch. So Runaway was started by a Korean streamer named Runner, and he and his wife Flowerven pretty much bankrolled the entire team. They didn't have any official sponsorships. They paid for everything out of pocket and fielded the team, and they became immediate fan favorites for showing up to Apex at a time when everyone's showing up in these cool tryhard esports jerseys, or if in some cases, I shit you not, fucking sailor uniforms. But Overwatch, but I'll find you pictures of this. I forget if it was. I forget if it was. I think it was Lunatic High, but it might have been Chengdu. But um, they showed up in fucking bright pink sweaters, and they started as the only amateur team. They didn't have a sponsor in what was effectively the biggest tournament prior to the existence of the Overwatch League. And they would take out, uh, over the course of their history, teams that would become the original Seoul Dynasty roster, the original London Spitfire roster. Like, they played against pretty much everyone that with a long career in Overwatch, and they went through so many hardships. It took them so much time to get to actually get sponsorships and have people support the team financially. They paid for a team house out of pocket, and then fans sent them a washing machine to try and help them. um
Oh,
yeah, and then there was eh, worry about whether or not the team would disband because they kept coming in second place, and and morale was low with the difficulty of getting a sponsorship. They kept not being able to break that finish line. The Overwatch League started, and because they performed badly in the season of contenders right before the Overwatch League, they got overlooked. And then Runner had to do his compulsory military service, so the guy behind the whole thing was gone. And then Flowervin, because the team meant so much to her husband, kept it going while he was in the military. And when she was running it, they finally broke the second place curse and won a season of contenders. And that's why you had the entire roster get signed to Vancouver all at once. And I remember meeting them at BlizzCon, and I saw them and I went up and I asked for a picture and all that. And Flowervin, immediately took a picture with me. It was real nice. And then Runner, who'd been out of the picture for so long, when I'm like, "Can I get one with you too?" And he goes, with me?" Just not expecting this giant hairy American to know who the fuck he was. And like, I just go, "Of course I fucking want a picture with Runner." And the look on his face of just fucking delight. Like, these people are salt of the earth. And there's a clip of like, if you watch the clips of them playing in Apex, there's one scene where they have an upset win and Runner jumps up and he's so excited. He jumps up, pumps his fists in the air, and accidentally punches a hole through the booth ceiling. And it's immediately,
Whoops.
you can tell he's like, "Oh my god, what did I just do?" And the entire team is laughing at him and he's mortified. And then there's times where they win and he's so overcome with emotion that he's hugging players, just fucking crying. And it, like, you could tell how much this meant to them. And at the end of the day, they kind of had to make the decision to shut the team down, because the move to YouTube kind of made the things they would do in terms of streaming to sort of help generate support and revenue for themselves a little more difficult. It made it sort of split the fan base in terms of like who was actually watching Contenders, the overall sort of lack of support to Team 2, the structure of the scene and sort of how Contenders is handled relative to Overwatch League. And basically they had been running the team at a loss for a solid little while recently, and the energy that they put into that meant time taken away from spending time with their daughter, who's I think only 2 or 3 years old, and then also the streaming that made them popular enough and have the money to run it in the first place.
Yeah, you can only do something at a loss for so long.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's kind of what it came down to for them. And it it was really depressing to hear this news, because like I said, some of the most memorable moments and incredible runs in the history of Overwatch's professional scene came because of this team in one way or another, whether them directly or the players that, sort of came up through them. And their underdog runs were some of those early moments of just magic that made me love Overwatch, and the scene legitimately isn't going to be the same without them for me. And it just feels like a little bit more of the magic of those early days is gone with them.
Like I said, they will be missed.
Yeah, and if you haven't like looked up the clips, like you can find them on YouTube very very easily. Of just if you just look up "Runaway Overwatch Apex," you will find a lot of awesome, hilarious, and wholesome stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have a lot to say because I didn't get into the scene until partway through League season 1. So a lot of this is just kind of, looking through the window at someone else's nostalgia for
Oh
me.
yeah, no, like
But
I know for me this is like fucking the Johnny Cash cover of "Hurt" playing in the distance, and I know that not everyone has the emotional connection that I do to this, but to me,
but
like,
that's
it's such an important piece of the Overwatch, of the history of Overwatch, that I it needs to be fucking said.
yeah, absolutely. That's why we have two different viewpoints, two different set of experiences here, and that's why we cover these things.
Hmm. So yeah,
Yeah.
I've gotten that out of my system. I'm gonna
You
be
gonna be
sad.
okay?
Yeah, no, I'm okay. I'm sad about it, and it obviously it makes me like angry at the Vancouver Titans organization like all fucking over again for just it
For
just make
fucking it up.
yeah, for fucking it up, for like obviously it's not the same exact deal, um but it's just it fucking sucks to see a team that went through so goddamn much to make this happen just wind up falling apart for such mundane shit, and then just kind of seeing, like it was such a magical moment seeing them make it and then seeing it end that way. It really does, like I keep saying like the magic is gone, but it does feel like that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, no, I don't have anything pithy to say. I don't.
Yeah, no, I get you, I get you.
There was an attempt, there was something, and then it's like, no, nope, not today.
Yeah, but that's my bit on that. But what's a little bit more of a just to sort of bring the mood back up. It finally happened. We've seen Kevster's face.
The reveal video was so cute.
It
Just
really
the
was.
just a facial recognition gag, and then Kevster showing up and it not recognizing his face, and him putting a Genji mask on and it going, "Oh, welcome Kevster." And I'm like, "Yes." That's such a good way to do it.
Oh my
I
god,
love the
yeah.
sense, just the sense of humor that the Gladiators org seems to have. And there were definitely some issues 2 years ago when they let go of Sentinels. There
hmm
was some identity trouble, there was some figuring stuff out,
Oh
but
yeah.
I think they're doing a lot better in terms of who they want to be and their interactions with their community. Like, we're doing better. We're doing better. This was hilarious.
Oh, absolutely. And it's funny too. Like, so I'm trying to find the post right now, but the thing that just fucking slayed me was a lot of the reactions from overseas, like particularly Korea and China, were fucking hilarious, and a lot of like, why did he hide his face? He's hot. Like
That's not the point. The point is to be mysterious,
yeah, and I'm trying to
I
find
guess.
the posts about all of this stuff because like some of it was genuinely really really funny to me. But
Like, I feel like this whole thing started because he didn't have a webcam.
mhm.
And this was
Yeah, I think
just,
that's
and
part of it.
everyone had, they use the little illustrations for, they use those chibi illustrations for like everything. And they're so cute. But they use them for their comms videos and they use them for all sorts of other stuff. And because they didn't have a webcam, instead of continually doing the Gladiators logo, they just used his little chibi illustration. And you lean into the curve for that.
Pretty much. Oh, here we go. Some reactions to some Chinese Overwatch League fan reactions to Kepster's face. A mysterious AI has appeared. Isn't he handsome? Why didn't he show his face every day before? The recognition is unsuccessful because this is because he's secretly Taimu. So handsome. Uh, so handsome is the face of a cool, murderous, handsome guy in The Second Element. I don't know what that means. Broke through the dimensional wall, and then my action, and then my favorite one. The entire reason I made a note of this: the spicy blue man has finally showed his true face.
Okay. The spicy blue man.
The spicy blue man has finally has finally showed his true face.
And you thought Mass Singer reveals were dramatic.
Yeah. And then the other one, this one was from Korea. Man, if I was that handsome, I would do finger guns and all sorts of celebratory shit in front of the camera every time I popped off, regardless of my image.
Honestly, I think my favorite in there is secretly Taimu.
Yeah.
Oh
And honestly, he looks
man.
more to me like Surefour than Taimu. Like just the shape of
Yeah.
his face is pretty similar to good old Lane Roberts.
Like honestly, I was watching the video going, "Oh yeah, this." And then, welcome space, welcome this. And then trying to place him like he looks like is this no? Is this no? Welcome Kevster. Ah, okay, I don't feel bad for not recognizing him.
Yeah. Um,
Trying to do better at the whole whose face is that game because I'm very bad at it.
don't worry. I'm the same way. Like, although for me, it's mostly with people I meet in real life. Like, it takes me a while to like attach name to face in just personal interactions, and I have no idea why.
Oh yeah, no, it's going to be great going back to the office. I've onboarded. I'm IT, so I've onboarded all these people that I've met in person once, and then they don't always put their picture up on their profiles. We're going to go back to the office, and I'm going to be like, "Hi, who the fuck are you?
Oh, have fun with that.
Whoomst."
I'm so glad in the office I work in right now. It's like 6 people aside from me, or no, including me right now. So
Yeah,
like, I
a little easier.
yeah, well, production companies, bi-coastal. Some of the important people are on the East Coast or just getting back in. So I know the people who are here, and then I like they're just trickling back in, so I can get used to it. Um, so we've seen Kevster's face, and I'm going to continue with sort of the fun news before we get into the roster moves and everything. The July 9th Battle for Texas is going to be a live event. There's tickets sold. We're going to have fans there to cheer on the Dallas Fuel and Houston Outlaws going at it live for the first time with these new rosters. Hopefully, all safety measures are taken. Um, even in face of vaccines and everything, just best practices: take care of yourself, watch out for other people, obey like the guidelines as best you can. And even though I know that they've been relaxed tremendously, but just exercise some common sense. But I'm still very, very excited to see the fucking energy that those fans bring back in Overwatch.
Honestly, my knee jerk reaction to this is just one fear, and
Mm-hmm.
that's for those who have not been paying attention to the political scene. And yeah, we're going to go back into pandemic talk here because it's the year of our Lord 2020 DLC. We're still doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Texas has not handled this well, and
No.
as a pretty much as a response to the horrifying winter storm that shut down their energy grid and left many Texans without heat or running water for far too long, the governor basically went, "Fuck it, we're reopening." He put something into place that does not allow, I don't know if it's public buildings or if it's specifically government buildings, are not allowed to enforce face mask wearing at all, regardless of vaccination status. And I believe there's also a thing either, I don't know if it's actually been signed into law or if it's being bandied around right now, where you can carry a gun without a license in Texas. So there's just so much happening in Texas right now that the idea of, yeah, let's open this up and have all of these people show up in this place, no masks, no checking for vaccines, no nothing, just kind of, again, I go back to, do you want variants? This is how you get variants. I don't trust Texas. The Outlaws Watch Party did put up, because I'm in the Outlaws Discord, and they put up a thing saying proof of vaccination will be required to attend the watch party. In terms of the Dallas event, I'm not actually sure what their policies are because I'm not in that Discord, but I'm still just kind of looking at this like, I'm worried about this.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Justice had a watch party because they publicized it a little while ago. and I'm still waiting for gladiators to get the logistics figured out because, to my understanding, at the moment, it is just logistics. It's not willingness, it's finding a place that's up for it. So I don't know, man. Like, I am excited for live Overwatch, and my God, watching the games from the Hongzhou event and hearing the crowd losing their shit, it just incredible. So I look forward to that energy coming back, but I really, really worry about it being in Texas.
Yeah, trust me, that is not lost on me at all either. It's I'm just trying to be optimistic is all because I'm just I,
Yeah,
constantly exhausted and frustrated and angry about the state of things in many many areas of our country and the world. And all of this was kind of my initial reaction as well, but there ain't shit I can do about it.
yep. You just have to hope that the event organizers are able to mandate vaccination or mask wearing in the same way that Houston's is mandating proof of vaccination. And you have to hope that the people who choose to attend when they do so with the well-being of others in mind.
Mm-hmm. The it really just comes down to please take care of each other. Is what we're saying here.
Yep. We've been saying it for a year and a half, and we're going to keep saying it. God damn it. Take care of each other.
Absolutely, we are.
All
So
right.
the
Now that
other
I've brought down the mood.
the other bit of fun news to bring it back up before we get back into the roster announcement stuff. Custa, he got engaged.
Yay! Mazel tov.
Yes, I am just all the best wishes to him and his fiance because that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, good for them.
So into all of the roster moves now. First off, Guangzhou Charge now actually has a coach.
Holy shit, it's some coach with left Choi.
Yes, actually, it is Sung Coach, Sung Woo to be precise. Uh,
Hey!
he previously coached for the Charge as their strategy coach in their initial seasons before getting signed by the Valiant, and then remaining teamless after being unceremoniously fired from the Valiant when they decided, "Fuck all y'all, we move it to China."
Which doesn't make sense because you'd think he'd be. If he's being hired by the charge, I would assume that he would have entry into China.
Well, don't forget the team is also pretty much entirely Korean.
This is true.
So I don't know if they're practicing in Guangzhou or if they're practicing in Korea, but remember that a lot of the moves regarding LA and their transition were also cost cutting things.
Yeah, yeah. Because, you know.
So yeah, I don't know what's going on that end of things, but uh, yeah, a lot of the LA stuff was cost cutting measures on their end as they're kind of transitioning over. But Sungwoo was a part of the success that the initial Guangzhou Charge roster had. So we'll see if he can sort of bring some of that back with him as he rejoins the team now.
Yeah, here's hoping. Because we've been saying this about Guangzhou for a bit. They've got some very powerful components. It's just a matter of putting it together.
Yeah, Guangzhou and Hangzhou are both teams that have more than enough talent to be successful in terms of just the ability of their players.
Yeah.
Um,
And I mean, speaking of Hangzhou,
yeah, Hangzhou has parted ways with Godsby, fulfilling the rumor that we reported on a couple of weeks back.
yeah, we'll miss him.
Yeah, I will as well. He was one of the founding members of this team and was part of that core roster they brought up from Apex Korea when because the sort of center of that team was formed from a team called X6 Gaming. Uh, and I can understand the move from a strategic standpoint. Like they really don't have a reason to play him over Shy, and I do think that like his style hasn't really meshed well with the team this recently. Like a lot of like decisions end up with him getting caught out. So
Yeah.
I get it, but he's still a talented player, and I think with good coaching or with a team that sort of gels with him a little better, maybe. Who knows? But yeah, I think he's a guy that has potential, and hopefully we haven't seen the last of him.
Yeah. And I mean, he's a free agent now, so he
It's
can be
true.
picked up
He
whenever.
he is LFT. However, we
Yep.
have seen the last of Toronto Defiance Beast, who announced his retirement recently. Um, he came in to the Toronto Defiant after a run with Fusion University. He was part of their really dominant, just reign over contenders before he was sort of before the roster changed and he ended up spending a little more time on the bench, but got brought on to the Toronto Defiant um, and has decided to call it a career now.
Toronto has just been having a lot of trouble.
Yeah, yeah. Toronto Defiant, they're another one of those teams that it's very hard to kind of get a genuine attachment to at this point because of how many players they've gone through in their relatively young history in the Overwatch League. Because I don't think anyone that's on the roster right now was part of their initial lineup.
Logics.
True, but they still got rid of him for a while.
Oh, you're right. Oh man. Ugh. It it is
Or wait, no,
very
my bad.
hard.
No, they
Not
had
Logics.
no. He wasn't there from the very beginning of the Toronto Defiant. But he got brought in during that first season and has been with them since. I was thinking, I thought for a little while I thought his stint in the Montreal Rebellion kind of came in the middle. My bad.
Okay.
Yeah, wires crossed there.
I
Um,
trusted you. No.
but yeah, but yeah, the Defiant has sort of changed identities, like in terms of their roster and in terms of their behind the scenes staff so many times that it's hard to really develop a strong attachment to them, at least for me.
It's very much a who are you people sort of thing. I'm still in their Discord and I'm still kind of like, yeah, I'll throw in for Toronto a bit, mostly because they gave Agilities his home back when Valiant threw him to the curb.
Yeah,
So, yeah, it's one of those like, I appreciate the organization, but it's kind of hard to get behind the team.
yeah, and like I get why Beast maybe wanted to call it a career, like if he hasn't been enjoying things as much, because I know some people are just kind of done with it after a certain point. But I also just don't see him starting over Sato.
Yeah, and I mean, it's also harder. It's harder to be on a team when you're on the bench.
Yeah,
And it's also harder to be on a team that is perennially not doing well.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, and not necessarily like bottom of the barrel, just like not great.
pretty much. And it's kind of it definitely can be demoralizing, and you know it. Best of luck in whatever comes next for him. He seems like
Yeah.
a good guy. He definitely made his mark in Overwatch with his time in Fusion University. Just nothing but the best to him.
Yeah, and I mean, nothing wrong with going on your own terms. He made the
Not at
decision
all.
that was right for him.
Yeah, and sometimes that's what you got to do.
Yep. I think we say that like every time a player retires and there's not like a medical reason behind it when they're just like, yeah, I made the decision for me. Like, good for you. That's a hard decision to make.
Yeah,
Good for them.
and you know what? I think it's important to say that because quite often decisions that you make for you, like a lot of times people will question it. Just
Yeah.
sometimes you're in a situation where you need a change. Doesn't necessarily need to be, a horrible thing or, doesn't need to be forced by anything. Sometimes, you just need to change pastures.
Yeah. And that's perfectly fine.
Absolutely. So, next we have the Chengdu Hunters um, doing a bit of a shuffle between their current lineup and their academy team, Team Chasers. So basically, they have demoted one of the members of the main roster, DPS player Kaneki, to Team Chasers while promoting DPS player Taro Cookie.
I have to wonder how Kaneki feels about this.
Yeah, I definitely can't imagine it feels good,
Yeah,
especially
no.
because like I think there's a fair bit of overlap, though. I think from what I know, Taro Cookie, like Kaneki's more flex, but like is most known for his Sombra, whereas Taro Cookie's more of a hit scan player. So it's not necessarily like the exact same thing, but like in his position, I think the thing that you've got to kind of be happy with is that they're keeping you in the organization. They see you as someone who has potential that they don't want to get rid of, even if they don't have a place for you right now. And as someone who has been in that spot professionally a couple times in my life, it sucks, but also it's it's not as bad as it might feel to a certain extent. And obviously we don't know how it's going to, turn out, but he's still on a team, he's still getting time to play, and we really weren't seeing much of him on the Chengdu Hunters roster. So this is probably, better for him from a career standpoint to be able to keep to be put in a position where he might get to actually play with some kind of regularity.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean it's one of those, you're not what we need right now, but we still care and we're still taking care of you.
Yeah,
And you
and
can appreciate when an organization does that.
mhm. Yeah, pretty much. And obviously, we're kind of reading into it. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think that's I think it's a positive sign, even if it. I think it's a positive sign that they kept him around.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a good day for Taro Cookie.
Yeah, and I'll be interested to see what he does and how he slots into the team.
Yeah?
Uh, and last bit of roster move stuff. The Shock have been busy, and I don't think that's a huge surprise considering the questions about like where they're at right now or what shape they're going to be in or where their place in the current pantheon of Overwatch this season is. I don't think it's a surprise to hear they made moves, but some of the moves they made were definitely a surprise.
And let's be real, we have 3 here. 2 of them happened today.
Yes. First off, the probably less shocking one was they released assistant coach Agape, who previously was a coach for the London Spitfire in 2 different iterations of the team, as well as having some previous experience coaching. He's honestly been around since very early in the competitive history of Overwatch. He started off coaching for the LW teams, LW Red and LW Blue, uh, in September of 2016, I think.
Wow.
So he's kind of been bouncing around pretty consistently since then. And we'll see where he ends up after this release from the Shock. But considering his tenure, I feel like there are definitely teams that would want to have him, whether they're in contenders or in the Overwatch League. Um, and now we come to the big moves, which is surprising everyone. Striker retires.
Yeah, I don't know that that was on anybody's radar.
He definitely seemed increasingly upset with the losses that the Shock were suffering. Like you could see him sort of getting emotional about it. We know that he's kind of an emotional player. We know that we've known that about him since his days with Boston and him like breaking down into tears after a really big win um that he just played his heart out for.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know that we have any information on why he's chosen to retire.
Yeah, and the Shock's initial post just said that that they're, saying goodbye to him, whereas the news that he retired came from a post from one of the people within NRG who responded, Brett Lautenbach, who had responded to the announcement by saying, "An absolute legend, so proud of everything you accomplished. Go enjoy your well-earned retirement, man."
Yeah, because it initial post sounded like, why are they parting ways? What's happening? Retirement is a little different.
It
A lot
is, yeah.
different, but yeah.
And we'll see what comes next for him. He's a ridiculously talented player, so if he's, moving over to another esport, I think, he has all the tools he needs to be successful there. But it is kind of sad that we're not going to get to see the Ons and Striker DPS duo ever again, because the other piece of news, Ons is back.
And again, we got Striker in the morning. Well, no, he went to it. Yeah. No, he retired from radio. There's a local DJ who goes by Striker and he's retiring, which is hysterical to me that this is all happening.
Yeah.
But we got the news about Striker in the morning and then we got the news about Ons in the afternoons. It's like, all right, it's evening. What did the shock do? Is there anything else?
Yeah, and I'm not seeing anything new, but it's like,
At this point, we just don't know.
yeah, but the thing is, like, obviously the loss of Striker hurts the Shock in a lot of ways, and it leaves you wondering, like, who's going to play that tracer role. But at the same, like, I feel like having Ons back is a really big good for the team, because I think one of the biggest differences in this Shock roster was the DPS were struggling to clutch in the way that they could consistently in previous seasons.
Yeah.
Like, and that's not to say that they're bad players by any stretch of the imagination, because no, the Shock has fucking incredible talent, and anyone who's like, Nero and FD God are the problem, shut your fucking mouths, you genuine cretins.
It's
But
like it's so easy to blame new players and it's like guys that's not the only change on the roster. There have been so many changes on the rosters and also other teams have gotten better too.
yeah, and
Parity is a good
and
thing.
and as a coach, I have absolutely, like, in my time coaching and in my time playing, I have seen teams get you know an upgrade in terms of sheer mechanics to a roster, and then end up playing worse for one reason or another. It doesn't always come down to one player just fucking it up. It's shut the fuck up. Anyway, Ons is one of those guys who has that ridiculous pop off factor. And I feel like him being able to do that can turn, and having that ability to turn fights, can sort of maybe help the newer players on the team that are struggling to sort of find their footing and confidence to, like, let their talent show at a consistent level. Because we've seen this Shock roster beat the Dallas Fuel in an absolute barn burner match. We know the potential that they have. It's just a matter of them getting the confidence and synergy to play at that level consistently. And I feel like having someone who can take some of that pressure and create openings in the way that Ons can is something that could have a long-term benefit for the team, and more than just the immediate, like, just fuck shit up factor.
Yeah. And I mean, we talked a little bit about, and I think this was our last episode. It's been so long since we've recorded,
Yeah.
we talked a little bit about how because San Francisco last year was so fucking stacked,
Hmm.
they were able to get away with what essentially would have been bad habits for another team.
Oh, absolutely.
And they can no longer get away with those because of how the playing field has changed and because of how their team composition has changed. And I'm wondering if having Ons back in the lineup won't ease that a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that could be part of it. Like I do like I'm curious to see what effect it'll have because obviously we've seen some teams have a very immediate change with only a single piece being brought in or taken out. And sometimes it's taken a bit longer for that, sort of acclimation process to happen. But I'm really excited to see Ons play again.
Oh my god, yes. And the announcement did say pending league approval, so it's gonna be, I don't know how long some time is gonna be, but it's not gonna be like this weekend's matches.
Yeah, unless some like obviously a few weeks ago John Spector said that the league is now in more of a position to help teams acquire visas for players. So who knows when how what change that makes in this process, but I'm really excited to see him back. Like on the sniper duel possibilities with like Ons and Pine.
Oh my god.
uh,
Yes! Yes! I'm
like
here for this, guys. This is just gonna be
I
fun.
almost like I almost like need a minute after just thinking about that shit. Like
Get a cigarette and a cookie.
cigarette and a shot of vodka. But but yeah, so big moves for Shock to sort of cap off their changes this week. Obviously, Striker will be missed, and best of luck in his future endeavors. And welcome back, Ons. We're very excited to see what happens and like what changes this sort of brings to the Shock.
Yeah, this again, it's gonna be a little bit before we see Ons back in step with the team. So we might not get it until a couple weeks in. We might not, God knows, we might not get it until the Countdown Cup. I don't think it'll take that long, but it's still going to take some time.
Yeah.
So I will be interested to see what happens in the interim.
Yup. So
But yeah, it's been a hell of a news day for San Francisco.
it
I
really
believe the
has.
I believe yeah, my friend who referred to Gladiators versus Shock as the custody cup for Moth made a comment about, okay, we know you want to shock the world, but not like this.
Yeah, seriously.
So yeah. And I mean she's a big Shock fan, so
Oh yeah. Like I'm definitely like this is a move that like for I feel like for like long-term Shock fans, this is just kind of that Thanos moment of like you got On's back. What did it cost? Everything.
I mean, there is still a chance for them to go, 3 times standing.
I
There is a chance.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Even though they haven't looked as strong this season, you cannot fucking count these bastards out. They are just that good at like picking themselves up and making shit work.
And I mean, we're going back into prospective Rhine comps, and they've been good at Rhine comps. And as memeable as Super is, he's a very solid tank player.
He
And
pushes
okay, Genji, a very solid tank player.
he pushes on Reinhardt. He just pushes into you and doesn't give a shit. And that level of pressure, whether in a boxing ring or in an esport, has an effect on your opponent.
Yeah, so having Ryan back in the mix means having Super back in the mix. And I do think it's not like he wasn't playing, but Super on Ryan is just one of those, like, yeah, of course he got the fucking shoe bonus last year with the 5-man shatter and whatever the hell it was. Like, yeah, of course he did. It's Super on Reinhardt.
Pretty much.
It's like going, yeah, it's Pine on Widow. Come on, guys. It's one of those, you know? It's Jonak on Zen. Duh. It's just one of those like player and hero pairings where you're like, well, of course he's out there destroying everyone else. Look who he's playing.
Yeah, pretty much. Where you can just rely on that shit.
Yeah, so looking forward to that. Looking forward to see where we go with the roster change up, the coaching change ups across all these different teams, and taking what we learned from the June Joust into the hero pool less Summer Showdown. And I think that means it's about time to roll into predictions.
I think so. Let's
So,
get into it.
to start us off, we are in the EU with the London Spitfire versus the Paris Eternal.
Tale as old as time, song as old as rhyme, British and the French.
Okay. Okay. I was wondering where you were going with that, and that wasn't what I expected, but I like it. Paris.
Paris.
Fucking Paris. Oh my god.
Paris.
We did see shades of London doing better, but we definitely saw shades of Paris doing better than that. No, Paris.
Yeah.
Uh
They
Next we
look good
have
with the new additions.
they did. They did. But still, Paris though. Just the
No,
chicken
I
wings.
was saying about Paris's new
Oh,
additions.
yeah, true, fair, fair. Next we go into the aforementioned custody cup. Gladiators versus Shock.
And it is amazing how my opinions about this match have changed over the course of a single fucking day. Like,
Yeah, because I'm sitting here going, you know what? Maybe gladiators. Like, yeah.
this is one of those moments where I'm leaning towards Shock, but I could very easily see it go either way, especially because we've seen we've seen gladiators really sort of start to find their stride recently, and then really though, like again, my official prediction is the Shock, but really though, I think the winner is going to be us as the viewers because Ons versus Birdring sniper duel potential.
I was going to say, provided that Ons is
Potential.
playing.
Yeah.
That's, again, I don't expect Ons to be playing this quickly unless because he was in the league on the team before, they're able to just kind of copy paste stamp we're good. Um, Yeah, and I just spent the last minute or so extolling the virtues of Super on Rhine. But I'm also sitting here going, but space though. But space.
My counter
And
argument to that
also
is
but
Choi.
bird ring. Hmm?
My counter argument to that is Choi.
This is true. But also, again, I think this is also going to depend on whether Ons is playing because the loss of Striker is not an easy one. And you have Bird Ring on the Glads and Tracer and Sombra back in the mix. This is I'm gonna go Gladiators because fuck it, why not? Uh, how I do all my predictions. This is why I have like 30 points. I
uh,
have more than that, but I'm nowhere near the top. Yeah, either way, I am sincerely hoping that this is a knockdown drag out. I don't want this one to be 3 Overwatch. I
oh,
want this one to go nuts.
yeah, I feel like the California teams always show out when they get a chance to play each other.
True. Speaking of 3 Overwatch and former, I guess, California teams, Hongshou versus the Valiant.
Well, in this case, Show. Like,
Yeah.
I genuinely can't. Like, I do think the Valiant have made like some small improvements, but it is fucking small and gradual. Whereas Hangzhou has, I think, a stronger roster, a better coaching staff. If the rumors to we reported on a few weeks ago are true, a coaching staff.
Yeah.
Um,
The
yeah,
question is not whether or not the Valiant have a chance at winning. The question is whether or not the Valiant will take a map for either their third or their fourth this season. I think it would be their third.
just every time the Valiant are in a game, all I can think of is, and this is it's like fucking Bonesaw in the first Spider-Man movie. Just, I got you for 3 maps of playtime.
I legitimately had a moment of who the fuck is Bonesaw? I cannot place
Macho
that
Man.
Spider-Man villain.
Macho Man.
Yeah, no, it wasn't until you said that when I was like, "Oh, the cage fight."
Yeah.
Right. I was like,
Yeah.
who I haven't heard of Bonesaw as a
Yeah.
Spider-Man villain. I mean, a Tombstone, but not Bonesaw.
Yeah.
And for a minute there, I legitimately thought that Bonesaw was a Spider-Man villain and he was probably in the comics and I just hadn't heard of him. Like legitimately. Something something comics. Anyway, Soul versus Chengdu.
um,
That
fuck.
make you happy?
Yeah, it did. Honestly, this is one of those ones I really don't know where to put it because Seoul is a team I don't have a great read on, and Chengdu is a team it's impossible to have a great read on.
I'm gonna go with Chengdu because whenever it's down to fuck it, who knows, I'll just lean into the memes. I
And
love it.
yeah, and you know what? That's a fair approach to have. However, Seoul did win the last time they played. Chengdu hasn't been looking particularly hot recently. I'm leaning. I'm thinking it might be Tiger time.
Yeah, maybe. But we've also had, I think both of these teams have at this point had 2, 3 weeks off and no hero pools.
Yeah,
So whomst the fuck even knows?
which yeah, for when there's no hero pools, fucking for all you know, Chengdu might break out Sojourn. Like the fucking like
Look, if anyone was gonna do it, it would be Chengdu.
basically, yeah, that's a title contender right there. For all you know, Chengdu's gonna break out Sojourn.
You
Uh,
know, I don't think I'm gonna make that the title because I want that to be a surprise for the listeners.
you know what? Fair. Um,
If you made it this far, you deserve a reward.
it's,
It's still us talking,
yeah.
but
So next match, Guangzhou versus New York.
I mean, given that New York made it to the tournament, I feel like I should say them, but honestly, Guangzhou has a coaching staff, we have no hero pools, and we've seen Choi's Tracer.
Yeah, and I'm leaning towards Guangzhou as well. Like, especially because like with a new head coach that has some familiarity with some of the people remaining. Like, obviously, we'll see how much of an effect he has immediately, but I'm willing to take that bet.
I mean, yeah, to be fair, no hero pools also means Jonak back on Zen, potentially.
That's
So,
true.
again,
That's
as
true.
one of those like, well duh hero pairings, like, yeah, but I'm still gonna go Guangzhou.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of with you.
Yeah.
Moving back over to NA, we have well, partially NA at least.
Yeah, I
Lon-
just say
yeah,
mostly.
yeah. London Spitfire versus the San Francisco Shock. I have no conflict about this one. San Francisco.
I feel like if San Francisco dropped this, it would shock the world.
Can you imagine if they play ons and get and become the first W for London?
No, I can't because it's
I
ons.
can't, but like as the Chaos Goblin, I thought like you just fucking Grinch smile at the bizarro world of that concept.
Here's the thing. I'm here for Chaos Goblin, but I'm not Danny Lim. All right?
True, true. You don't want to watch the world burn that much.
Yeah, and I mean, there's such a thing as going for the underdog or going for chaos, and then there's going against a sure bet. And this is not quite as sure a bet as it could be. It could be surer if for some reason San Francisco were playing this year's iteration of the Valiant, but this is still pretty fucking sure.
Pretty much, like this is as safe money as you're ever gonna have. Uh,
I did once have someone ask if there was betting on Overwatch League. Like if you could go to Vegas and place a bet. And I'm like, probably.
I'm looking
Do
it up
I know
now.
those circles? But could you do it? Most likely.
If you know what, you know what, it's there.
It's there. It is and sport. Why not,
I,
man?
I
Why not?
I'm looking up the money line.
Did I just derail like everything?
No, I just look up the money line for San Francisco Shock versus London Spitfire.
How bad is it?
The London Spitfire are a plus 927 underdog. The Shock
So that's a no.
the Shock are a minus 9,999 favorite.
It's over
For
9,000.
those of you who don't know what that means if you to make $100 profit betting on the Shock, you would need to bet $1 under 10 grand.
Oh boy. So yes, you can bet on Overwatch League.
Oh my god, those numbers are fucking magical. I've
But if you're gonna make
never
money on London, London has to win.
I've never seen a favorite that hard before. Wow.
Welcome to hell, I guess. Anyway, so talk
Hell.
about a
Yeah.
sure bet.
Oh my god. So next up, Florida versus Toronto, Florida.
Florida. Toronto's not having a good time.
Next up, Vancouver versus Boston. And my god.
What's the money line on this one?
Uh
This is not going to be a continued feature of the podcast, by
no.
the way. We're just running with this.
Since
I'm
it's here.
thinking
Okay, yeah. Take your guess at like what level of and I'll confirm Vancouver's the underdog, Boston's the favorite.
I mean, I don't really know much about Moneyline in terms of
Okay.
this,
So
but I'm going to say it's not nearly as extreme as what we just saw.
oh yeah. It's pretty fucking extreme though.
Give
Just
me the numbers, dude.
you're not going to take a guess?
No.
Okay.
I don't know this shit.
Vancouver Titans are a plus 492 underdog, meaning if you dropped $100 on them and they won, then you would walk away with $492 in profit. Boston Uprising.
No, profit's not on the profit's not on Vancouver.
I can't explain this clearly without
I
using
know.
this word.
I know.
Boston Uprising is the minus 1111 favorite. So you need to bet
Honestly,
over $1,100 to make $100 in profit.
honestly, what I want to know is what the odds are on Vancouver Titans getting breadsticks. Because unless the game has changed again, and as far as
They
we know,
don't
it
have-
has not.
They don't have a spread for this.
I wish they would. Because, again, in much the same way that a Valiant match is not will they win, it's will they get a map. A Vancouver match is not will they win, it's will they get breadsticks. And remember that the rules for breadsticks are a map 5. They don't have to win the map 5. They just have to make it to a map 5. Or support.
Fire has to boop someone, basically.
Yes, a support. Vancouver's main support has to boop someone off
Well, it
the map.
can be anyone. They said any support, but it's going to be
but
the main support's the only one that has the fucking capacity to boop, so it might as well be.
Yeah, Brigida.
He's usually played by the main support.
Fair. So yeah, it's you're looking at Lucio and Brig for this one, man.
Exactly.
So yeah, the over/under is not whether Vancouver's going to win, because given Boston, like last year's Boston versus this year's Vancouver.
Oh, this would be a toilet bowl if it was the last year's iterations of the teams. But Boston actually showing some life right now.
Yeah, but yeah, it's gonna go to Boston. The question is whether or not breadsticks will happen. And you know what? I believe in breadsticks. I am predicting breadsticks.
I'm just so again, this is me going on a weird reference, but there was a professional wrestling thing. There was a wrestler in Scotland who is a huge local favorite named Grado. And he's a local favorite because he's an underdog, because he's just this chubby dude from fucking nowhere that is a huge dork, and everyone loves him and wants to see him win because he's just so fucking lovable. And after years, he finally gets the title for his local promotion, and you are hearing like 2,000 Scotsmen sing like a prayer at the top of their lungs because that's his entrance music, and it's fucking great. And the commentator is shouting at the top of his lungs, "I'm a cynical man. I don't believe in many things, but by fuck, I believe in Grado." And I'm just imagining Grado replaced with breadsticks. Like,
I believe in
but
breadsticks.
by fuck, I believe in breadsticks.
I mean, yeah, I don't think Vancouver's going to win, but I think that they will get breadsticks, and I specifically think that they will get breadsticks off of a boop.
The boop seems more likely to me.
Yeah, that's why they added it.
Yeah.
Pizza Hut Canada over here, like, shit. Moving on.
I love what a company has to make the promotion easier for them to lose money on.
Because we're at the point where the casters want them to get breadsticks. The fans want them to get breadsticks. Like, everyone wants the breadsticks to happen. Like, we're not asking for a win. We're asking for tubes of dough.
And I was about to say, there will literally be more of a reaction for Vancouver getting breadsticks and losing than Vancouver winning.
Oh my god, yes, absolutely. Like, if they win and don't get breadsticks, I think we would all lose our minds in a the sky is falling sort of way.
I think more people will just care about the breadsticks than the win at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
People love a meme. This is the meme. This is why you watch the Vancouver match. Not to see if they'll do well, because but to see if breadsticks will occur.
Yeah.
And honestly, if it gets you watching Vancouver matches, I think that's what they want.
Yeah.
They want to win, absolutely.
I think
but they also don't want you to tune the fuck out.
The players are probably fucking depressed about that. But at the same time, moving on. Hangzhou Spark versus Seoul Dynasty, taking us back over to APAC. I am going Hangzhou.
Spark. Yeah, same. Yeah.
Next, Chengdu versus Guangzhou. I am literally rolling a dice on this one.
Yeah, this seems insane.
Odd, Chengdu, even Guangzhou, because there's no way I could have odd as an option and not give it to Chengdu.
What dice are you rolling?
A D20.
Hell yeah.
And not only did I roll an odd number, I rolled a natural 1.
Well, you roll the ones out before you actually start playing in your campaign, so.
I've been running the same campaign for 5 fucking years.
Roll the ones out pre-session, come on.
Yeah. And I rolled it again, just for the fun of it, and I got a natural 20.
Oh my god. You ruined it. You ruined it, and I'm leaving. No.
But yeah.
I'm also, I would love to see Guangzhou go just batshit on this, but I also do think Chengdu.
Next up, New York versus LA.
New York and LA will not get a map.
The battle of cities in the United States with a penchant for navel gazing. And I say that as someone who's lived in both.
Yeah, no, seriously, I do think New York's going to take it, and I do not think they will allow Valiant a map.
I could see 3-1, but I'm definitely more in line with 3-0.
I honestly think that after being in the June Joust, and I mean getting fucking waxed in the June Joust, but most teams got 3-0'd in the June Joust. Like, I can see them with a fire lit under their asses after this. Being like, we made it, we want to fucking make it again, let's go.
Yeah, like, I could definitely see it being a morale pickup. Even if the, once they've had a little time to recover from the shellacking, it can be a motivational tool with some power to it.
I just got to get past Guangzhou first.
And now, coming back over to the Western stage of things, LA Gladiators versus Paris Eternal.
Gladiators.
I'm going Gladiators, but I feel like this is going to be a relatively close one.
I think so. It'll be interesting.
Yeah. Next up, we have the Boston Uprising versus the the Florida Mayhem.
I was watching the reruns.
Yeah. I was looking at the next match and then trying to think of like a joke to make, but Boston Uprising versus Florida Mayhem, and in this case, I think
Florida.
this time I'm rooting for Florida.
I mean, Boston might make a showing, but I also think Florida, after not doing like they had a chance and then the numbers went, nah, not so much for June Joust. So they are also going to be like, no, we're doing this.
Yeah, agreed. I think this is definitely a closer match than it might have been at other points in history, but
Yeah.
I do feel confident about Florida taking the W here. And then we're closing things off, representing the North Side, C to the Canada. Toronto Defiant taking on the Vancouver Titans.
I mean, probably Toronto.
Can we
This
just
might be where the map 5 comes in.
can we just like legitimately just can Vancouver just change? They don't deserve the Titans thing anymore. The organization, I mean, more than the team itself. You don't get to have a cool ass name when we vote against you at literally every opportunity.
I mean, let's be real. Outlaws have the best fucking branding in the league and a great name, and they were not easy to root for checks notes
Well,
3
oh
seasons.
yeah,
So
but tight. But one, outlaws just means that you are, against the law. You're a gunslinger. You're a desperado. You do your own thing. March the beat of your own drum. Whatever. Titan means that you are a bad motherfucker. Every incarnation of like every connotation of the word Titan implies power and dominance.
eh, I've watched enough Attack on Titan that my brain just goes big. That's all, just big.
Yeah, but the thing is, the Titans are supposed to be big, scary, and dangerous, and that's why they're called Titans.
Fair. I mean, you always want a team name that is big, scary, and dangerous. This is why nobody takes the Cleveland Browns seriously. Uh,
Aside from Cleveland itself being just like,
I mean, yeah.
yeah, that's just like Cleveland.
And
We're not
and
Detroit. Like,
and our like 2 listeners in Cleveland going, "Hey, fuck you!" Like, no, we love you, but your football team is a joke. I and I say that as a Denver Broncos fan. Uh, you want to go for an imposing name regardless of how well your team performs. So like I get it. Even if you don't currently deserve it, like I get it. This is why I sit here and go, the hockey team that Seattle just came up with last year is the fucking Kraken. Like, that's amazing.
that's pretty fucking solid.
Oh, their
Especially,
branding
yeah,
is incredible.
that's pretty fucking good. I would root for the fucking Krakens. I ain't even give a shit about hockey. Fuck
Yeah,
yeah,
same.
Krakens.
Same. I'm like, yeah, the Kings are just down the street and the Ducks are a little further down the street than that, but the Kraken, you guys! And I mean, my home state, our hockey team is the Avalanche, which is fitting for Colorado. But yeah, the Seattle, the Kraken. Like, all right, I'm in. I mean, I will buy merchandise for this team. This looks amazing. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
This is also why I started rooting for the Houston Outlaws. I saw that color scheme and that logo and I went, yes.
Oh yeah, no, like when the Overwatch League was forming, I was like, please let NB be New York, please let NB be New York, and then one Texas, fuck, and then rival team, the Optic, which NB and Optic have a whole history of rivalry, becomes Houston, and they get the cooler colors. Just again, fuck.
Yeah. Yeah. That's about the only thing we had going for us for a while. But
I
we're
mean,
doing
let's
better.
be real.
The cooking video they made recently was much better than the
It
first one.
was. It was.
It
It was
was.
a lot of fun, that one.
It was Dante and Jake being shitbirds and cooking steaks. It was a good time. Anyway, yeah, no, Defiant's taking this one.
Yeah.
We
And
might get the map 5, we might get breadsticks, but I don't really think Defiant's taking that.
pretty much, I feel confident about that. So I'm going to perform the customary Reddit check now.
Do so. As I sit here and go, it's not gamer snacks, but it was still really funny to watch Dante over season the shit out of his steak and then give Jake shit for overcooking his.
Well, here's the thing. You gotta salt a steak pretty heavily because you're gonna lose a lot of the salt content in the pan. Like
See, I'm
you
a
should.
marinade person. I have always been a marinade person for
Mhm.
steaks because the half pineapple teriyaki, half soy sauce, leave it in there for an hour, throw it on the grill thing. Amazing.
Yeah, it depends on what sort of cut and what kind of like vibe I'm going for. But like, if you're doing a more like traditional kind of steakhousey preparation, you generally want more salt than you think you need because you lose a bunch of it in the pan, and some of it, when you let it rest, will take time to penetrate into the meat itself. It
Yeah, but 3 layers of what was it, tahine?
Tahini, yeah,
Tahine, yeah. That's
no,
a bit
that
that's
yeah. I'm just saying there are some contexts in which something that looks like over seasoning a steak is actually best practices, but I
that's not one of them.
no,
No. No. All right, what does Reddit have to say?
nothing.
The shock didn't fuck us up on the okay, tomorrow on the 24th, they're going to come out with another piece of news because it's always the day after we record.
Exactly. Like
We dodged a bullet on that one by recording on Wednesday instead of our usual Tuesday, but also something's going to happen tomorrow.
tomorrow,
It's going to happen.
Shadowburn comes out of retirement and rejoins
Oh my
Philadelphia.
god. No, tomorrow somebody picks up soon.
If either of those things happen, I'm gonna look at my phone and just fucking scream.
If either of those things happen, I will need you to tell me because I don't generally check the news on the regular while I'm at work.
Well, yeah, no, that again, most news things that we end up talking about on this show, I end up texting you, "This just happened."
Yeah, yeah.
Yo,
And
shit went
occasionally I
down.
and occasionally I send you one like, so have you seen
And the
this?
answer is in all caps. Yup.
Not always. I've gotten you before.
True, true.
But yeah, no, there is a One Direction flow of news in this podcast. Yeah. So this has been wild. This
Yeah.
has been a good time. Again, I believe in breadsticks. I don't believe in the Valiant getting a map, but I do believe in breadsticks. And I think that's the wildest prediction I've made for this weekend.
I also think at this point, only one of those things you actually want to believe in right now.
Oh, I will absolutely vote against my ex and not give a singular fuck. But even I can sit here and go, they have better odds taking a map against this team than against this other team. Like, I can admit that much. Not this weekend, but I believe in breadsticks.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's about it. CJ, where can the people find you?
At the_rage_nerd on Twitter.
I'm Katie. You can follow me all over the social medias as well as on YouTube and Twitch at Kiaxet. That is Kiaxet. I am also on another podcast called Rooster Team Radio. We talk about all things Rooster Teeth, generally Rooster Teeth animation. We've been on a bit of a hiatus, but with RTX at home coming up very soon, I get the feeling we're going to come roaring back. So check that out on all of your podcast platforms. Also, whatever podcast platform you found this on, you can find that on there too. Yeah, follow us on Twitter at OnThePointPod. Watch the matches this weekend. Watch Contenders. Contenders is on fucking fire, and Contenders contains my favorite casting duo in Leg Day and Lemon, hands down.
They're
the
so
best.
good.
They're so good.
Like I love a lot of the Overwatch League casting duos, but like they're fucking ready for prime time. Those lads, like fucking book them.
Oh yeah, I mean they brought Vicky up and she's been doing APAC matches, which is
Yes.
great. But also, I would kill a man. I would not kill a man, but I would love. I'm trying to get that out of my vocabulary, but I would absolutely lose my goddamn mind to see Leg Day and Lemon cast a Battle of Texas.
That would it,
Could you
it
imagine?
it's either them or Uber and Hack Uber and Mr. X. Like
Yeah.
like the thing is, you need someone who's gonna bring the fucking hype bell to bell. Like you need the Mauro Ranallo of Overwatch League, and it's those two teams.
Yeah, abso-fucking-lutely. So yeah, if you haven't been watching Contenders, watch Contenders. I tend to put it on while I'm at work and listen to it because it makes for great audio and all of the casters are goddamn amazing. And there are some wonderful players. So yeah, make sure you support your your tier 3 and your tier 2. Jesus fucking Christ.
I didn't think you
Wow.
fucked up until you stopped.
Support your tier 3, support your tier 2, and support your team. And also, just be good to each other. Wear a mask in public. Get vaccinated. There are variants that have been fucking with people who aren't vaccinated, so get vaccinated. If and when you are able, do the thing. Be kind to your essential workers. Be patient with your essential workers. Be chill. Be a good human being to them. Black Lives Matter. Black LGBTQIA lives matter. Black trans lives matter. AAPI lives matter. That's the correct one. AAPI lives matter. And happy fucking Pride, y'all. And also Black Lives Matter. And yes, all of that hasn't changed. Not going to change. Support the post office. Contact your fucking Congress people, contact your representatives, vote in your local elections. It's hard to stay active, but please stay active, stay informed, take care of yourself, take care of each other. Basic human compassion and taking care of one another is how we're going to get through this. I firmly believe that all of you are very good people, more so than I believe in breadsticks, so you know that's a lot. And if we stick together, we'll make it through. We just have to stay the course. Did I miss anything?
Nah, I think base is covered.
All right, let's C9.